Shepherds of Men is a secular movement started by three men of faith. We wholeheartedly believe that when we get the men right, we get the world right. We believe this because we believe that men are created and called to be leaders, and we believe there is an alarming deficit of leadership in our world today.
And although the three of us have come from drastically different backgrounds, our core principles have given us a unified voice that is needed now more than ever to pave the way for a fundamental change in our culture.
We are quite literally calling men to something great.
Welcome to the movement.
Before I turn it over, I want to just remind, I'm Sandy Pricer and Joe Pricer. I had to find him on my screen with Rise Up. Thank you so much, like I said, for joining us tonight. We have a great, I'm sorry, one of the children has a mask on and it totally distracted me.
Oh, well played. Well played.
I'm so excited for the message that Shepherds of Men have for us tonight. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in just a minute, but I would like to ask you guys to please remain muted unless you have a question or you're answering a question, of course. You can use the chat box if you want. It will probably, I think I have it set to just go to me. So if you have a question that you don't feel comfortable asking, just stick it in there and I will get it asked for you. Also, if you can keep your cameras on, that way we can see you and you can interact with us and we can, it's like we're in person, even though we're not. But thank you again so much, Shepherds of Men, for being here with us tonight. I'm gonna mute myself and let you guys roll.
Awesome. Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Joe. It's an honor for us to be here. Pumped to see all the young adults, soon to be adults, on here with us. Some of you guys we recognize and have seen grow up over the years, looking awesome as always and getting really tall. I was going to say really old, but you're not yet. So my name's Cameron. I'm one of the co-founders of Shepherds of Men. I'm joined with the other co-founders, Chris Wilson and also Josh Persons. Y'all can say hello, fellas.
How you guys doing? Glad to be here. Sandy, Joe, really appreciate you guys inviting us on. Really excited to talk about what we have to talk about tonight. We're pretty passionate about the topic, so excited to be here.
For sure. And I know we're very conversational. For those of you that don't know about our backgrounds, we actually run a podcast called The Movement that we launched a little over a year and a half ago. And so our nature is to chat and talk. And so I know you guys are muted. And we're probably just by habit going to ask you questions that you can't really answer. So, just wave or throw something at the screen or whatever, unless it's your parents' computer, in which case don't break anything. But we are excited to be here. I have known Joe and Sandy for over a decade, and I think Chris and Josh are pretty close to that. We've got a lot of history together, and we've got a lot of we're just very proud of what they're doing with Rise Up. It's a really awesome organization, and when they first started doing that, we connected pretty quickly, and honestly, we wanted to be a part of it. We wanted to see where we could help and how we could be an asset, and this is really that first step of that for us to come in and share on one of these workshops. And so again, honored to be here, and we're going to talk about something that is really, really important to us, really matters a lot to us as men. And if you do follow us at all or have heard of us, Shepherds of Men is a movement to redefine masculinity and call men to something greater. But we also work with and have quite a bit of female listeners that seem to get just as much out of the message, because the fact is the principles carry over regardless of gender. We're just not girls, so we talk to guys. So hopefully you will enjoy, and I know for sure you're going to get a lot of value out of it. And we're going to just kind of bounce back and forth, kind of like we would when we're on the podcast too. So I know some others are hopping in. As they come in, we'll just say welcome. But I think Wilson has got a screen share for us, and then we're going to kind of get into it. So the topic and what Sandy wanted us to chat about is something called attitude matters. And if that's kind of new to you, if you don't really know what's going down there, hopefully in the next 30 minutes you will. But really the way we wanted to approach this is to give some personal stories of when we were your age. My understanding, everybody on here is between 13 to 18 years old. And that is an incredible stage of life. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of good. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of growing. There's a lot of learning, and sometimes that can create a roller coaster of emotions and attitudes. And we just want to encourage you to take control of your attitude and always have a good one. But we also want you to understand that we've all been there. We've all been at that age, and we've all had experiences, and anything that you're going through or have gone through is probably not, it may be a little unique to you, but it's probably not that unique to you. There's probably something very similar that we have all experienced and grown through. So I'm going to turn it over, whoever wants to go first, either Wilson or JP. But like I said, we're just going to share kind of some, not really a testimony, but just some personal examples of when we were teenagers of some things that a great attitude helped us get through and grow through. So which one do you guys?
Are you implying that you were 13 years old at some point?
It was a really long time ago.
Here, I'll go ahead and start out because I was 13 once, and
for a whole year, right?
Wasn't that long ago. But one of the things about attitude for me that really resonated with me is I grew up in a nomad family. So I had moved, I think it was 14 different houses by the time I was 13. Nothing that had to do with the law or anything like that. It was just a matter of we moved around based off of different things that we needed to do or other opportunities and things. It wasn't even military background. I grew up with a single mother, so I didn't necessarily have a father figure in my life. But attitude was something that was shaped early on, because whether you understand this or not, you weren't born with your attitude. Your attitude was not given to you, the day that you were born, and that's just what you have. It's developed and it's refined, and it's something that you can work on and something that you could create and you own yourself. So if you've ever had to go to a new school, which I would imagine at 13, you guys have had to transition, even if it was with the same friends to a middle school or something of that nature, you probably moved schools at once. It creates that, that uncomfortable feeling, I guess, a little bit on the front end. And for me, it was big time. I made a big move from North Carolina to Arizona, which was not only all new friends, but a complete culture shock. Nobody that I went to school with was friends of mine, obviously, because I didn't know them. And I had not been on the West Coast before, so the way of thinking and the way that people lived and stuff was different. It was an opportunity for me to learn, though, and that's one of the things that really struck me one day is I was getting very down in the dirt about moving, because I would meet friends and I would make relationships and then we would move. And once I went to the next spot, I had to make new friends. And it's not always easy to do that, because if you guys know, well, you guys do know, kids can be ruthless sometimes. And I remember when I was younger, I would go into a new school and it wasn't always easy. I mean, just to be straightforward, there was people that didn't want me there. I was the new kid, and that's not a good thing. I'm stepping into their territory and I'm the new kid. So it wasn't always good. And I started to get down in the dirt a little bit about things and didn't want to move. And remember, I met this kid named Ian when I moved to Arizona, and he kind of sat there and talked to me and took a lot of interest in what I was doing and changed my perspective on, dude, what you've done, a lot of kids may never get to do in their lives. And you've already done it like by 6th grade. You've already traveled all over the country from coast to coast and got to meet an unbelievable amount of people. I've been with the same dull people for my whole life, and just trying to make some fun of it and stuff. But he really started to change my perspective, which impacted my attitude, because once I started to look at that and say, you know what, this has been a blessing. This has been an opportunity for me to grow. This has been an opportunity for me to meet a lot of people. And this has been an opportunity for me to become emotionally stable and develop a strong attitude on how my life is going to progress from here, because I went through the struggles that a lot of kids may not have had to do. And maybe your struggles are in a different form. But for me, that was a really good opportunity. And I looked at it as an opportunity. God blessed me with an opportunity and challenges to become better. That's why they were there, not to beat me up, but to make me better. So from that point on, I think what it's really fostered in me is the ability to have an attitude where I want to influence other people, because I remember how I felt in that period of time and how Ian impacted me. So now my attitude towards people is, how many people's lives are going to be better because I lived? How many people are going to be happier because I was around? How many people can I smile at on a daily basis? And even small things, and if I see people that maybe seem to be uncomfortable because they don't know somebody in an area or something like that, I'm the first one to go up and shake a hand. I'm the first one to say, hey man, welcome, how you doing? Because I know what it feels like to be on the other side of that. So that was a story for me that developed an attitude for me that really carried me on to be somebody that was more of a very strong, but still personable when it came to my attitude towards life and towards people.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Wilson, how about you, man?
Yeah, my name's Wilson. So I did not move around as much as Josh did when he was younger, which is a good thing. It can be a blessing. But I think my background was I came from a split home, and my mom and my dad were very unhappy with sorry guys with each other, and kind of took it. Sometimes the kids can be involved in that unhappy relationship, and it's hard to kind of decipher, who's right, who's wrong, and all that kind of stuff. And was not a best position in life in general, but I had to figure out or start thinking through some of those situations and have a positive attitude, because sometimes things happen in our life, in my life, that was just not the best. I had to live with my dad for a few years outside of my, wanting to, in a sense, because of my mom. And in that vein, and then that time frame, it was just very difficult to, communicate. My dad didn't do communication very well, and I got punished for a lot of things that I thought that I didn't necessarily need to. But I always wanted to make sure that I had a good positive attitude going through it, because I knew that at the end of this, there was going to be something else. I had hope that there was more to what was going on. And I think my attitude changed drastically is because my dad did do one thing right. If I could say anything that he ever did, was he got me into church at a younger age. And just having that different perspective and that different background on just how to think a little differently really helped. And I got saved at a young age. Ultimately, that turned into saving or rededicating my mom and different things of that sort, which was pretty cool to see. And I think the attitude part of it that helped me develop as a person is my mom always instilled into me is like, whatever you put your mind to, you can accomplish, and always put God first in everything that I did. And I leaned on that a lot, because through those dark times in my life with a split home, my mom and my stepdad that got married, they fought a lot. So it was just very challenging at a younger age to see the good in the crap that we were going through. Just because life just hits you when you get older. It's challenging. I didn't realize that at that time, because I didn't have that perspective. I didn't see, paying bills and the responsibilities that the parents actually have to go through, and then just how they handled themselves. It showed me what not to do versus following suit. And that was one thing that I wanted to make sure that, at the end of the day, like just what JP was saying, how many people are you going to impact? Who are you going to be? And it's your attitude towards those oppositions and those things that you face. Are you going to just wallow in the pity of what you're dealing with and struggling through, or are you going to think and rise above it? That's what I love about Rise Up, is this, you got to rise through those challenges, and you have to make sure that you have a positive mental attitude, even though that it may not seem like you could see the light at the end of the tunnel. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. The next day could be better. And that's kind of what the hope that got me through a lot of my challenging and tough times was, that I actually was thinking, it's like, hey, tomorrow's going to be better. Tomorrow's going to be better. And then eventually one day it actually became very well and very good. But I just encourage you guys, I don't know what you all are facing, what your life is like. Everybody is going through something, and just know that, it's up to you to make the best of it. You could either follow suit and continue down the path that you may not like, because better. You can actually see for yourself, like, hey, is this really a life that I want? Or make the decision to change. And it starts with your attitude on how you are going to take that to the next level.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. So my story is a little bit different. You guys heard JP reference earlier how young I was. One interesting thing about that is that I was also the same height for most of my life, still am. So I've never been one for getting stuff off the top shelf or anything like that, or like washing the top of my truck or anything like that. So it does have its advantages. You're closer to the ground when you fall, those kinds of things. But I was just always a little smaller, like I didn't have a lot of size to me. And I lived in a more rural area. So I went to smaller schools. I did move around a few times. I went to smaller schools, but you really have an opportunity to participate in sports when you're in a smaller environment like that. And so I did play a lot of sports, but the issue was that it didn't come from necessarily natural ability or anything like that. I mean, I got knocked down a lot. Football, basketball. I got more injuries in basketball than anything. Ran track. It's interesting. I was one of the shortest guys in the school, and I ran the high hurdles. And that's no joke. It's funny, but it's not a joke. I went to state in the high hurdles. Who would have thought? But only because the Holy Spirit was pulling me over, I guess, or something. I don't know. But what it ultimately, the point of it is, what ultimately came down to is I had to decide: do I just want to be limited by my size or natural giftedness, physically, or do I want to just have a good attitude about it and really approach it with a mentality of I'm just going to work harder than everybody else? And that's what I chose to do. At a young age, I really started just going. They might be bigger, they might be faster, they might be stronger, they might be all these things, but they're not going to work harder than me. That was my attitude, and I developed that probably in middle school, and it went through high school, and I literally had people, other parents would be in the stands after the games and telling my dad these things like, he's kind of crazy, like they'd call me Timex because I'd take a licking and keep on ticking. Y'all are too young to know what that means, but it's an old commercial about a watch. But that translated into really helping me achieve some things. I did the same thing in the classroom. I worked hard to accomplish things in the classroom, and then on into college and as an adult, which we're going to talk about more later. But I developed that mentality due to the challenges and the struggles that I had. And again, like Wilson was talking about, I had a choice. I could say, I have limitations. I'm not as good. I'm not as whatever. Or I could just say, that's just a different circumstance for me. It's not a limitation. It's just an opportunity to grow. And it's all about the way you think about it. And honestly, I don't really know where I picked that up. I think probably a lot from my dad as a good example, and really as from my mom too. She always had a great work ethic. And so I saw that. I know for those of you that are the Pricer kids on here, you guys already know you have great examples with both your parents. I mean, they have phenomenal work ethic, phenomenal attitude. You always know what you're going to get with them. They're all the same, they're not up and down all the time. They're just emotionally stable. They're just great examples. And I have seen that trickle down into their next generation now with you kids. Sorry to call you kids, but you still are to me. So that's some stories from us, and hopefully you can relate to a little bit of that and kind of give you a little bit of a lead into some of the things we want to talk about. Perspective was one of those things, and we all three of us kind of hit on that. But that is something really important to consider, is how you choose to look at it. And really further down, we're going to talk about, making a choice and taking ownership of your circumstances. But that's what attitude comes down to. We've been taught over the years that there's really only two things you can control, and that's your attitude and your actions. So you can decide how you're going to see something, and then you can decide what you're going to do about it. And me personally, and we're filtering a little bit tonight. We're usually fairly strong with our message. We're kind of filtering for the audience. I will say this just kind of as a side note: if you decide to follow any of our content, it's at least PG-13. So just maybe get a parent's approval or something like that. But we're fairly blunt and to the point. But I don't think that even when I was your age, I didn't want people to really sugarcoat too much. So But you got to have work ethic and you got to have a good attitude if you're really going to ever accomplish anything, no matter what it is, no matter what you want to do and how big or small you want to do it, whatever your purpose is in your life. The only way you're really going to fulfill your purpose is to approach it with the right mentality and to work hard at it. So do you guys want to add anything on perspective?
Yeah, I would say that, obviously ditto what you said, but the way you view the world is going to really form your reality. And the thing about it is, as you start to get older and you have more time on your side, you start to really see evidence of that, right? Your mind, what you think about how you view the world, your mind will automatically start to look at evidence to justify that. So if you look for good things will start to happen. There's truth to that. So all I would add to it, Cameron, and I mean, you hit the nail on the head with it, but perspective is extremely important if you want to shape your reality. If you have a lot of bad stuff happening to you, it's probably because you're looking for it, and that's all you're thinking about. You have to change the way you perceive the world around you. You have to start to look at things as maybe everything's not out to get me. Maybe there's a lot of good out there that I just haven't seen yet. And as I start to look for it, it starts to happen. I mean, if you guys if there's something like a new phone that you've wanted, or a new pair of shoes or something like that you've really, really wanted, and you've been looking at them, you'll start to notice all these people that have that same pair of shoes. It's for me, it's like a truck. If I want a new truck, or there's a truck that I like, I start to notice it everywhere I go. But it's because your thoughts and your perception creates your reality. And there's a lot of truth to it.
Yeah, healthy perspective is everything. It helps you get you a positive mindset. I like positive mindset. If you think about anything attitude wise or whatnot, you have to have a positive attitude about life. And I'll tell you a quick story. Coming up in life, I felt like I was leaning toward entitled. Knowing what that is now, I felt like the world owed me something, or I needed more. And you can get that feeling a lot whenever you have kids that have brand new sneakers and brand new backpacks and jackets and the latest trend of whatever it is accessory wise. And it felt like that I deserved that as well. And I didn't realize what I already had until I went on a mission trip and went to Dominican Republic and actually saw what a poverty looked like actual people living in huts and wearing just a t-shirt and maybe some underwear and working on a sugarcane village and literally cutting down about a ton of sugarcane just to make $5 US at that time. And you can't live on $5. Usually it took about a whole day for 4 or 5 people to do that. So I mean, collectively the village would work together, and as a kid old enough to just get out there and go work in the sugar canes, I mean, if he was old enough to carry a hatchet, that's what he had to do. So it's like that changed my perspective in sowing, not so much on wanting so much out of life, in a sense of like I already had a lot and I wasn't grateful, I wasn't thankful. And having that attitude of just being thankful as well for what you already have, and just kind of keep that in perspective, like you have a lot. So now you can go and create more because you're in America. You should be able to do a lot with it. So healthy perspective is everything.
For sure. And I'm going to mess Wilson up here because he's running these slides for us, but I wanted to jump to the choices and ownership just because we've been talking about that. If you can do that.
I was all excited about talking about criticism.
I know. But, this is an opportunity for you to grow. So, so the choices and ownership piece of it is really, we hit on it a lot, so we won't rehash, but there's one statement that we've used forever and I've heard a lot of times, and I just want to make sure that we share it with you. It's really, it is an attitude statement. It is what it is kind of focusing on becoming the thermostat instead of the thermometer. And if you guys know what a thermometer is, a thermometer tells you what the temperature of the room is. A thermostat sets the temperature of the room. So when you have a good attitude or even a poor attitude, you can change what the mood in the room is. You can change what the mood in the household is. You can change what the mood is in your classroom or with your friends, in any of those environments. And so you really do, we take this as a personal responsibility to be happy, because our happiness that we choose to have in our minds and in our hearts, and we choose to have a good attitude, that's going to rub off on the people around us. I can tell you that you guys don't relate to this yet, but as a father and a husband later on in life, or wife, whichever one of those you are, it will set the temperature for your household. Like I choose to have a good attitude. And just let me say this too, and for all three, I'll speak for all three of us. We're not perfect at this. We're still humans. JP's pretty perfect, but
wait a minute.
every now and then he slips up.
He's a specimen.
Don't let him fool you. Wilson's probably the closest on this as far as always having a good attitude. He's hard to not have smiling. I'm probably the least disciplined on this. I have a tendency to get my own temperature up a little bit, but I use it for good, for the power of good. But just take that into consideration. That it's a responsibility to not just for yourself to have a good attitude, but how are you going to influence those around you? Which is another piece, that we talked about on here. We've got a couple notes that we just want to make sure there's some, we don't have all night with you. We're trying to cram a lot into a short period of time here, but, bringing people up or taking people down, that's another way of looking at that. Just I've heard said many times, your people are like an elevator. They either bring you up or they take you down. Very, very seldom do you hang out with somebody that just keeps you the same, and you know how it is. If you go to a certain group of people at your school, and they're all gossiping and being negative and, doing those kinds of things, or talking bad about the teacher, or talking bad about this person or whatever, even if you're a great person and that's not your spirit, it has a tendency to wear you down, and you start lowering your guard a little bit, and you start kind of, falling into that same mentality and attitude. And if you hang around that too much, you'll just become it. And the opposite's true too, which is good news. If you really want to, and we'll talk about this towards the end, we're going to give you some practical steps on how to have and keep a great attitude. But if you hang around with people that have it, that's going to rub off as well. If somebody's always positive, they're always speaking, they're always edifying people, they're always, looking for the good, all these things we've been talking about, is we're choosing to find what's right instead of what's wrong. We're choosing to look at dreams as opposed to nightmares. Then that's the way that you're going to start viewing the world. That's the way that you're going to start being intentional about your attitude as well. So do you guys want to add anything on that?
I mean, just protect other people, man. You see somebody who's needing some help or whatever, you can be an influence in their life, a light in their light, by just going there and saying, hey, giving them a good positive word of encouragement, or defending them, come to their aid whenever they can't defend themselves. I mean, that's very important. We're all humans, and so we're supposed to be there and have each other's back. So don't partake. Set the example.
Well, I think it's our natural tendency to undervalue ourselves. I think you naturally undervalue how influential you really are to other people around you. And I don't care if you're in 6th grade or you're 50 years old. You influence people all day long when you're around them. So it's your responsibility to continue to grow yourself and make yourself better and really display that kind of attitude. I'm not talking about fake attitude. It's one thing to walk around and pretend like you have a good attitude, but to truly work on yourself to the point where you change your perspective, like we talked about, and you start to become a strong attitude of doing things because it's what's right rather than it's what's popular. I've always prided myself on going against the grain, and that could very easily go the wrong direction. If you don't have your principles honed in correctly, but you're important. Understand how important you are. I can't tell you how many times random people that I didn't even know changed my day from being like, this is kind of one of those days to, today's not that bad. And it could have been at a gas station, could have been anywhere, just running into people. So don't underestimate your value and how you influence people that are around you. Wear a smile and be happy, have some bounce about you, and live life, happy. Attack life, because you'll inspire other people and influence other people around you to do things. And I think that's incredibly important.
Yeah. And there's a book that talks about this, and it's funny because it's actually a kid's book. I mean, like a little kid's book. I read it to my 2-year-old. It's I don't know the exact title, but it's called something like The Bucket Filler. And some of y'all have heard of it. And to be quite honest, it's the principles that he talks about in there. Actually, I think a lady wrote it. It still applies. Like every time I'm reading it to my kids, I'm like, wow, this is just good for me. Like it's good for me to be reminded of how simple it is to fill somebody's bucket, or to, they call it dip into somebody's bucket, which is basically take their joy, and it's all through how you choose to approach life, like what Josh was just talking about. So, so one of the things that, well, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I don't know if we can, these may be more rhetorical, so you may not really need to answer them, but just think on them. Just kind of consider these as some of the stories you've been hearing, some of the things we've been talking about is, when you're in different environments, let's say you face some criticism, how do you really take that criticism? How do you choose to take it? Do you choose to take it as a personal offense, something that hurts your feelings? And I'm talking about constructive criticism. I'm not talking about somebody just calling you names or being a bully or anything like that. I'm talking about constructive criticism that's probably intended for you to help you grow. And maybe even if it's not intended to, you could choose to take it that way. So just consider how you want to take that. I know for me, as you've heard through these stories and through Josh and Wilson too, anytime I've been criticized, my natural tendency is to get mad. That's the imperfection, that's the human being. But then I have to stop and think, and I've matured enough to stop and think, like, okay, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? And secondly, like, how can I use this to learn and to grow? Like, how can I change from this in a positive way? Or how can I do this to where next time that person that was affected negatively, I can affect positively? So that's one thing to consider. And then also, how do you take an L? How do you take a loss? If you play sports, we all kind of played sports coming up, and well, Wilson didn't so much, but a little bit. He's a big fan of the South Florida football team.
Hey, I did play sports, but I just don't follow.
Yeah. So, but whether it's sports or band or martial arts or academics or community service, it doesn't really matter. Whatever it is, it's all the same principle. And, you're going to take losses. I'll just go ahead and tell you that. As you guys are young and you may be getting used to, like, and this is not to you personally, but I will say what I see in society sometimes is the teenage group, that the adolescent age range, sometimes aren't used to getting told no, or to not getting their way. That could be for various reasons. It could be for how their household is, how society is in general, whatever. I would just encourage you to just get used to that. Like, don't be scared of it. You're going to take losses. You're going to fail. You're going to fail a lot. And that's why you will be great at whatever you choose to continue to pursue. There's a great book by John Maxwell. It's called Failing Forward, and he talks about that. And the truth is, if you're going to accomplish anything, you're going to fail a lot on the way. So don't worry about that. It's just part of the game. And again, if you have a great attitude, you'll just go right through it and grow from it. So you guys want to add anything on that?
Yeah, I would say that you should feel comfortable in the fact that other people's opinions don't have to become your reality. You guys live in a world that I borderlined. Cameron didn't see at a young age. But you guys live in a technological world that is, you guys have access to everybody. I had to see somebody to talk to them about something. I mean, we had phones, obviously, but you couldn't flip your phone open and look at what Melissa was doing for lunch today.
Did you just say flip your phone open?
Yeah.
And turn your phone on. Oh, my age there, all right. I still got an iPhone 8. That's crazy, right? But it is different, and it's understandable there. And we actually did a podcast. I can't even remember what we titled it, but we talked about how social media and technology impacts the younger generations, because you guys didn't see the face-to-face social conversations and stuff. Because if somebody wanted to be critical of you, they either did it behind your back where you didn't hear about it, or they had to do it to your face when I was younger. Now you guys have stuff all over social media, and it does affect you. And you have to be mentally mature enough to understand that people's opinions do not have to be your reality. People can say whatever they want to. That doesn't have to be your reality. You own that. They don't. And you should never give it to them. But when you're getting criticism from people, always gauge the character of the individual that's doing the criticism, right? I will take criticism from somebody who has done something that I want to do, that I know is pure of heart and where they're coming from. I will take that all day long and apply it to my life. If it's somebody that's just, maybe not such good character, there might be a nugget that I can find in there and utilize because there's a reason why they're saying what they're saying, but I don't put a whole lot of stock in it. So criticism is really a catalyst for growth, though. You should take criticism and you should really utilize that to get better. We talked about perspective. So from criticism standpoint, the way that you should perceive criticism is, how can I get better? What you'll start to understand is, as you get older, there are adults out there that pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to be criticized. But once again, the character of the individual that's doing the criticizing has been vetted. They've got fruit on the tree and stuff like that, but they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to be criticized. And most successful people do. They want somebody that will critique them and critique what they're doing because they want to get better. But that's a mental maturity side of things, right? As you mentally mature, you'll start to realize the magic in criticism is growth, and you can get better by listening to criticism.
Yep, I was going to say, seek criticism. Yeah, find somebody that you respect, you like, somebody who's in the, if you're playing sports or whatnot that are really good, get with them, get on their calendar, find out ways to get around them. And your association is very important in that regard. So find somebody you can respect and have them criticize you or get you better, because that's the end of the game. You live one life, and you want to live the best life. And the only way to do that is to find people that's going to pull the best out of you. So, and that's a nugget that'll serve you for the rest of your life if you take it seriously.
Amen to that. So one last thing on this, and then we're going to kind of wrap up with some practical tips for you and a little surprise screenshot for you too that I think will be real helpful. So if you can take pictures of the screen or screenshot, get ready. It's coming. Okay. But I lost my place. The one last point I wanted to make on this was taking into consideration how your attitude will affect, in this example I've used here on my paper, was how it will affect getting picked for something. So whether it be getting picked for a team or getting picked for, Chris put the tips up already and y'all are distracted now. There we go. Or whatever it is, later in life, it'll be much later for you ladies, especially the Pricer ladies, much later. It'll be for if a boy picks you, much later, right, Joe? But if for a job in the future, and a lot of you are getting to the age where you're starting to get jobs. I've got a 15-year-old son. He just got his first job, and so you're getting to the age where you're starting to take more responsibility, and you're in competition with other people for certain positions. Just understand, Josh is a manager of you don't mind me saying, he's a manager of engineering manager for Amazon. He's like over 100 different facilities for Amazon. So he just got all the cool points on here. But he's constantly managing and hiring and firing people. And I've been in that position. I used to open restaurants. I used to run different businesses. We're running other businesses now where I had the opportunity to where I had to bring people in to work different positions. Wilson's done that now. He's got a couple of companies he's run. So we've all been in that position where and we've also been on the other end of it where we were trying to gain a spot on a team or in a job or in whatever. And ultimately, if there's two really close competitors, if there's two choices that either one of them would be good, I promise you the one with the best attitude is going to get it. I can tell you that from the position of the one choosing, and I can tell you that from the position of the one being chosen. So not just a positive attitude, but also a very confident attitude. And that's probably another workshop for another time. But
100%. And I couldn't agree with that more. And I'm glad that you touched on that, because I am a hiring manager, and I would prefer to hire somebody with their attitude right than somebody that has a ton of skills, because I can teach somebody skills. I can't teach you how to have a good attitude. You own that. You have to do that. Yeah. So I would, that's a great point, Cameron.
So we're going to, and listen, we're open to questions. Should we do that first, Sandy? See if there's any questions on anything. We've been talking for like 40 minutes now, or 35 minutes. So if there's any questions, we are happy to just let it rip. We're happy to answer whatever you got. If there's not, you don't have to. You won't be criticized.
And I don't know where your package is.
that is not a question for Josh. No, he has no idea. I can't see them, so you just have to tell us if there are any, Sandy. If there's not, we'll go ahead and move into some tips. I guess I could see them. I just am choosing not to.
I don't see anyone making any movements as indicating that they have any questions. I was hoping that one might. Maybe
I feel
they
like that was
will
a
at
hint
the very
towards
end.
one of your own.
I was thinking about calling out one of mine, but I do that often, and they might appreciate me not doing that.
Well, you can, if there's a way to do an anonymous question at this point, then feel free to do that. We're also going to give you some ways to contact us outside of this, obviously in the appropriate ways, through parents' permissions and all that kind of stuff, if it's something that would be valuable. But we are going to give you some tips. So we talked a lot about attitude, why it's important, how it can affect your life, all those great things. Here's some things that we wanted to leave you with, because it's one thing to come on here, and honestly, we kudos to all of you. This is fantastic. You're taking time on a Tuesday night, on a school night, when you can be doing all kinds of other things, and you have responsibilities with schoolwork and all the different extracurricular activities that come with school, or you could be playing on your phone, and it's cool to see that you're on here wanting to get better. And so we wanted to leave you with something. Chris was giving you a side plug for his transportation company. He's recruiting early over here.
Sorry about that.
That was a subliminal message right there.
Right.
Hiring brokers now. So here's some practical tips. All right, 6 different things. Number 1 is read. We are huge believers in the power of reading, and nothing against Harry Potter and whatever. That's the only one I ever referenced because I don't really know. Nothing against fiction books. For entertainment purposes, all that kind of stuff, I think it's great. I would rather you read than watch a movie if you had to pick one. But along with that, even if you're choosing to read that, I know we have some readers on here, also intertwine in there some personal development books, some things that will help you grow. That's not something you have to wait until you're an adult to do. There's plenty of resources out there that are applicable to your life right now that you can start working on your mindset, start working on your attitude, start working on your perspective of what you want to achieve. So recommendation from us would be read at least 5 pages a day. Now, I know for a fact there's one young lady at least on here that is laughing because she can probably read 5 books in a day from what I've understood. But just as a general, if you want to do more, do more. There's nothing wrong with being an overachiever, but minimum 5 pages a day in something that will help you grow. And we're going to give a recommendation at the end, just maybe a starting point and even a giveaway for you too. Number 2, guys, do you want me to just cover all these or do y'all want to hop in?
Yeah, run through, man.
Cool.
Good.
And number 2 is associate. We talked about this. We don't need to rehash it either. Just choose your association, the people you hang out with wisely. Make sure that you're hanging out with positive mentality people, and then also associate with things that are going to create a good attitude as far as in your sense gate. So what you're watching, what you're listening to, what you're reading, all those things, just choose those wisely so they'll give you a good attitude. Okay. Stay active. That may not be one that everybody thinks about, but I can tell you this, we all have different disciplines in our physical activity that are for a lot of reasons, not the least of which is we want to stay young. But the other is that we feel better. When I say feel better, I don't just mean physically, I mean mentally. We feel better and more focused and more bounce, like Josh was talking about, when we're out there being active. I've recently gotten into running. JP is big into CrossFit. Wilson has done all kinds of different things, and now he's doing motocross or whatever he's doing. But the fact of the matter is just being active in something, figuring a way to move your body, and quite frankly, to sweat every day. We're big believers in that. 4 is input. We kind of talked about that with association. So make sure you're watching your sense gates and what you're putting in. I got more notes on here. Stay active, exercise, go outside, 3 days a week. So that was on the stay active, at least 3 days a week. So if that's something new to you, then again, don't feel like you got to be out doing something 7 days a week, but at least 3 days a week. Just go ahead and make a decision that you're going to get out and move your body. And there's a great song about that too. Move your body. Put good stuff in. So on the input side of things also too, to add to that is, if you're trying to figure out, how do I do that, or what's a practical thing I can think of, is it just exchange 30 minutes of your social media time daily for something like a positive audio or a podcast or YouTube video, motivational video, or music or anything like that, just turn the what do you call it? The thread, what do you call it? The scrolling, turn it off for 30 minutes. I do it too. And I'm sitting here, I don't even know what you call it, but just unplug from that stuff for 30 minutes and plug into something positive. Look for the good. We talked about that. Focus on the positive. That's number 5. And then etiquette. So we are also big believers in, if you look good, you feel good. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't mean your personal appearance as far as how God created you. That means how you choose to present yourself. You know, stay clean, stay well groomed, fresh clothes, iron clothes, you know, just looking crispy. Because at any point, again, we go back to influencing other people. You carry yourself a certain way, you're going to influence other people a certain way. And what's crazy about it is it will also do the same to you, because I promise when you walk by a mirror at school and you're on your game, as far as the way you're presenting yourself that day, you feel better about yourself. You're going to have a better attitude. So take that extra couple of minutes to go, you know what? I'm not going to be sloppy today. I'm going to actually dress for success, so to speak. It could still be in a t-shirt. I'm wearing a hoodie right now, but it's a clean hoodie and it's got a really cool logo on it. So,
it looks good.
Right there. So hopefully that helps. And there's, you know, you guys again can screenshot that or write it down. The last thing we want to share with you, I think Wilson has it ready to go, is, and we've learned this over the years as far as positive speech and understanding how that the words that come out of your mouth will determine a lot of your future. And, you know, everything we've said tonight is keeping a positive attitude. And one thing that will continue to do that and reinforce that is being aware of what you say. So this is something that we put out on our social media probably a month ago or whatever it was. We did a whole episode on this. We called it Speak Like a Shepherd, just because that goes along with our branding and our mindset. But honestly, this could be just speak like a person of success and someone with a great attitude. There's some words that you can leave out and some words that you can exchange. So you guys can see that. Wilson, JP, y'all want to add anything on that? And I'm going to tell them about this really cool book giveaway we're going to do.
I didn't learn about this until I was in my probably mid upper 20s. I was probably, I guess I was about 27 when I really started to understand the impact of this right here. And it was given to me or delivered to me. And it truly is impactful. And I know that when I was younger, I probably would have looked at this and been like, well, yeah, of course you should probably, you know, say some of this stuff. But if you really try, or I said try, if you really work towards doing this on a daily basis, and I still have to correct myself on some of this stuff. But if you really create that habit of auto suggestion, of saying these things, as far as I can, I'm excited instead of scared and stuff, it changes your perception, like what we've been talking about. It changes the way that you attack situations. You're no longer playing on your heels, you're playing on your balls and your feet.
Not to go super deep, your brain is like a computer. What you say is it's gonna react to. So you're programming yourself every single day, whether you like it or not. And it's simple to do and simple not to do. But successful people choose to use the right words. So you gotta make sure you take that seriously. You can take it or leave it. But if you take it and you actually apply it to your life, then you'll rock past all of us combined. And your mind is going to pay you more than anything else.
For sure. And I'm glad you said that simple to do, simple not to do, because that's a great lead into this last point. We talked about how important reading is. And Wilson, if you want to put up that last slide, just again, in case anybody wants to contact us, and again, that's through Sandy and Joe's blessing, and then through your parents' blessing. This is how you can find us on social media, on our website. We've got a lot of things coming down the pipe there. And again, there is a disclaimer. It's at least PG-13. So take it or leave it. That's what it is. But we do believe in reading. And so what we'd like to do is, in order to help you start getting in that habit of reading, if you don't already, is we would actually like to give you a book. All we're asking is that you actually use it, and you're going to have to say you want it. So you have to take action to get it. Okay. So some of you have seen this book. Some of you have had access to this book. It's called The Compound Effect. It's not necessarily just an attitude book. It's really about how little things add up to big results in every area of your life. And it's a great, simple read that will help you tremendously throughout your life. And it's a good starting point if you're moving from fiction into personal development. I think it's a simple transition to start making some good little choices and disciplines every day. So if you would like a copy of this on us, we're going to give it to you. All you need to do is, if you don't live at the Pricer household, you need to contact Sandy, give her your name and address. She'll pass that along to us and we'll mail this to you. Okay. All we ask is that if we send it to you, you're going to read it. Okay. As Josh said earlier, we believe in you. We wouldn't be here. We wouldn't be doing what we do if we did not believe in the next generation. This is a huge honor for us to be involved with this. And I know there's many, many more great things to come from RiseUp Cooperative. And we hope and pray that we get to be a part of it along the way. So if there are any other questions, we're happy to take them. If not, then we're going to turn the floor back over to Sandy and let her wrap things up. And we just appreciate you guys being with us and allowing us to share tonight.